Every time we've attempted this, we've failed. So, we are going to give it another shot. Today, we are tackling the Trans-Canada Highway, hopefully driving all the way from Vancouver to Calgary in a single day. Taking us from the lush coastal regions through the scorching heat of Kamloops and across the rugged Rocky Mountains before hopefully emerging in Calgary. Will we make it or will we fail once again? You'll have to stick around to find out.
What is up, and welcome back to another adventure. Today's adventure, we're going to try to settle something. Today we're going to see if we can drive from Vancouver to Calgary in one day. Every time I've done this so far, if you've watched the channel, it has failed. Every time something goes wrong, whether it's a road closure on Highway 1 due to an accident, a wildfire, or my car decides to do something and we lose a tire and I have to source a tire in Kamloops. They've all been pretty crazy adventures. So today we're going to settle it once and for all and hopefully make it to Calgary in one day. We're leaving about 9:30 in Vancouver, so hopefully we're kind of timing it so the traffic isn't bad all the way into Calgary. It might get a little rough around Banff, I'm thinking, because people are heading out for the weekend, but hopefully, because this is a Friday, a weekday, we'll have a little bit more of a buffer between traffic and hopefully be able to make it smoothly. Right now I have an ETA that says we will make it today, but you never know with this type of traffic. And talking through it, I'm about 75% confident we'll make it today. There is a couple hurdles on our way there. As I said, just the drivers, just the overall traffic on here, depending on if people are going to or from their vacations on a Friday. It's supposed to be a cooler week next week, so maybe not as many people are heading into the interior BC to check out some of the lakes, and we'll get a nice ride up the Coquihalla into Merritt and past Shuswap. And then the next issue there is wildfire. We have a ton of wildfires this season. It is the end of July and there is 543 wildfires burning in BC. If those end up getting closer to the road or something happens, then we're going to be seeing maybe a detour or another closure on our route. But I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that we will be able to make it smooth and clear on the 12-hour drive from Vancouver to Calgary. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get out of Vancouver.
Although we were originally making great time out of the city, as we reached the surrounding towns, the traffic slowed to a crawl before coming to a complete stop on the highway. After enduring the standstill for what felt like forever, we finally started moving east again. Managing to get out of Langley, Abbotsford, and making our way through the farmland to our first stop of the day in Chilliwack for fuel. With a full tank, we hit the road once more, heading through Hope and into the mountains as we began the ascent up the Coquihalla Highway. We took our time climbing up the never-ending pass surrounded by the towering mountains on each side.
Well, we're officially out of the Vancouver area and on the other side of the Coquihalla. So far, our route is still looking good, looking like we don't have any issues on the highway yet, besides the traffic that is typical as you go through Langley, Abbotsford, and to Chilliwack. We've never really had issues on this part of the Coquihalla during these adventures. It's usually after Kamloops we start to see issues as we get into the Shuswap area and we go around the arm, past Salmon Arm, and then into the stretch between Sicamous and Revelstoke. That seems to be our most popular spot for issues to happen and for us to gather up some delays. As I said, finger crossed, we're not going to have any of those happen and we're going to have a smooth shot all the way to Calgary. but you never know. With that being said, we're going to continue making our drive through the Coquihalla here, highway number 5, enjoying the view, which I've noticed is quite dry before we get into the extremely dry and hot area of Kamloops, and then eventually making our way into the Shushrock region.
As we descended from the Coquihalla summit, the lush trees began to disappear, being replaced by a dry mix of grass and sand, with a few sparse pine trees dotting the landscape. Passing through Merritt and the other pass, we finally made our way down into Kamloops.
And well, there we go. We got gas at Kamloops, and we are continuing to make our way towards Calgary. So far, so good. Kamloops usually is the place where stuff starts to go wrong. My map is still saying that we are looking good. So as long as nothing changes, we might be able to do this. We've pushed about half an hour behind with 2 gas stops. Usually I add like that about an hour onto my drive time. So the drive time between Vancouver and Calgary, depending on where in Calgary, where in Vancouver, you're looking at about 10-ish to 12-ish hours, again, depending on the drive time. For me, I like to add an hour in there for getting gas, getting food, taking breaks, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's what we're kind of looking at so far. And as long as we kind of keep this pace, we should be getting there about a couple hours after dark, which honestly isn't bad, because as long as we're kind of in Banff by the time it gets dark, I'm not too worried, because that means we're getting through all the kind of hard stuff. And well, with that being said, we're jumping back on the highway and making our way east. One thing before we continue this adventure, I would like to say just a huge thank you to everyone that is a member on the channel. These kind of videos, these longer videos that actually cost a little bit to make, would not be possible if it wasn't for the members. I know there isn't a ton of members, but there's enough to make it so that it's actually possible. So if you are thinking about getting a membership for the channel, highly recommended. Not only do you support the channel, but I do add a couple cool perks along the way, depending on what tier you're on. So for some people, that means they get to see the videos earlier, get to see some behind the scenes, especially with working on the car, that videos that I don't post ends up as posts, as well as my travels to places like Japan, where I talk about the car culture. And then for other people, it looks like also joining the live streams and getting their names inside the credits, as well as on the shop wall when we end up building it. So there's lots of perks besides just being able to support content like this. But with that being said, as I said, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to all the channel members, and we will continue along this highway.
Leaving Kamloops behind, we navigated through the city's traffic in the lower part before hitting the open road again. We cruised through the desert-like landscape, making it past Chase and into the shoe shop, where, once again, we were surrounded by a dense forest.
Now in the shoe shop and coming out of Salmon Arm, we are getting into my second favorite part of this whole drive. So as I said, I've done this drive quite a bit, and if you watch the channel, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We've done both this route as well as the south route to and from Vancouver, doing a little bit of camping as well as doing some adventures along the way. With that being said, I do have a couple spots that I really enjoy when I am doing this drive. The one is between Salmon Arm and Sicamous, where the road snakes its way kind of up high along the lake. It's a really fun one to drive. And then the second one is in Glacier Park. I want to say it's kind of in past or before Rogers Pass on the Alberta side, and it's a really beautiful drive. It's not really a windy drive like the one I'm talking about right now, but it is still a really nice drive through the really rough and ragged Rocky Mountains. So those are the two kind of really nice driving parts I like. Not to say that I don't like other parts of this drive. I think this is actually a really nice drive. You get to see a lot of really cool sceneries, and you get to drive through a couple cool climates. Like we have the drop here where it's very lush and green, and the mountains are more hilly. Then as you get into Vancouver, but before you get into Coquihalla, you got Kamloops, which is super dry, almost desert-like, and then you got like the rough Rocky Mountains kind of at the glacier and Rogers Pass, and you get some pretty good views along the way.
Leaving Salmon Arm, we followed Highway 1 as it snaked along the Shuswap Lake. Enjoying the scenic route, it wasn't long before we crossed the bridge into Sycamoose and headed onto the winding road that leads to Revelstoke. And although this area is usually a hotspot for closures due to the narrow and winding road through the valley, this time we made it through without any problems and soon crossed the bridge into Revelstoke.
And check off Revelstoke. We have made it through Revelstoke, so we made it through the one section that gives us a lot of issues. So the next section will be the section after Golden, which means we're only about 4.5 hours away from Calgary. So we're making really good time today. It is a little bit busy, but it's more busy going that way than coming out of BC because most people are going on vacation on Friday. I try to time my transits opposite of what people would typically do so that the roads might be a little bit quieter for us. Next on our list is making it through Rogers Pass. Rogers Pass isn't too bad because it is pretty built up with 4 lanes. There's a few little sections with 2-lane roads, but it is a beautiful drive through Rogers Pass as we kind of go up into the mountains. Probably see a little bit of snow even this late in summer, and then make our way back down the other side and descend into Golden.
Heading towards Golden, we begin our ascent into the breathtaking Rogers Pass. With the rugged mountains flanking us on both sides and the glacier-capped peaks in view, we navigated through one avalanche tunnel after another. Eventually, we emerged on the other side, making our way into Golden.
And well, there we go. We have our final fill up here in Golden, and we're on the final stretch. We're under 300 kilometers till we get back to Calgary. So that was our final fill up. As I said, we don't have that much longer to go, and we're pretty much past all of the barriers. The only barrier I see right now is going to be the construction going out of Golden, where they're doing the 4-lane, as I said. But they don't have any closures tonight because we are in summer and it's Friday, and they only do certain closures at certain times when they're doing the construction, and that was not one of them because there's so many people going back and forth. So I guess that's another thing when you're doing this drive, you got to make sure to look at that closure because you want to time it right. And there is a van from Europe. That is pretty cool. It had Europe plates on it, so they must have brought it over. Anyways, we're going to go ahead, get back on the highway, and make the final stretch to Calgary.
With another full tank of fuel, we climbed our way out of Golden and headed to another trouble spot for us, the Kicking Horse Canyon construction. But to my surprise, as we crested the hill, the usually busy section of the road was deserted and the construction was halted. So, as fast as the speed limits would allow, we zoomed through the construction zone, crossing over the Kicking Horse River. We then continued our journey through the Rocky Mountains, soaking in the amazing views.
I was not expecting that. I was expecting at least some traffic on that Golden construction because every time I've gone through there, it's a mess. But we were like pretty much the only ones heading eastbound. We have caught up to some traffic, but this is kind of my second favorite spot I like to drive on this road. And this is between Golden and Field, where you kind of get into the national park. It's super remote, there's nothing really going on, there's not even service, but you get between these nice big mountains, the big valley beside you. It's absolutely beautiful. We're just driving through Field right now, where you can kind of see it's pretty much open, and a little bit down that way we'll be finally entering Alberta, the province I haven't been in for 2 weeks that I live in. But we're getting close. We have just over 200 kilometers to go, and it says 2 hours and 22 minutes. I don't know if that's quite right. Maybe it will jump up, but I'm crossing my fingers. But I think we might have done it in 1 day. It was actually a relatively smooth ride. Well, so far, as I said, we're still not in the clear yet. We still got to go through Banff, and then obviously through Calgary. But going through Calgary isn't really a pain because there's more than one route. When the mountains are in your way, it's a little harder to find a route, unless you want to drive another 6 hours another way.
As the sun began to set, we crossed the border into Alberta and entered the Banff National Park. Here, the traffic thinned out once again, allowing us to fully enjoy the breathtaking views of the Rockies, almost entirely to ourselves. With the last light of day fading, we left the national park behind, passed through Canmore, and finally reached the foothills and the prairies.
And well, it's kind of hard to see, but we are officially in the prairies. So we actually didn't even lose light until we got pretty much outside of the Rocky Mountains and into the prairies. But like what I've been saying, we're actually pretty much on time when compared to our estimated time of arrival way back at Vancouver. This is the first time I've really had that happen, so that is awesome to see. As I said, I think it was a combination of a few simple things, but it was nice to see that you can, if everything lines up right, drive from Vancouver to Calgary in 1 day. And hopefully nothing else changes in the next 60 kilometers from here to Calgary, and I'll see you in a little bit.
As darkness enveloped us, we tackled the final stretch into the west side of Calgary. With just minutes remaining and minimal traffic throughout the city, we could almost finally say we've completed the 1,000-kilometer journey in a single day.
And well, there we go. We have made it back all the way from Vancouver. We have successfully done Vancouver to Calgary in 1 day. It only took about 3 to 4 tries to do it, but we got it all done. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of a glimpse into what a smooth Vancouver to Calgary trip looks like. If you're looking for something a little more interesting and a little more adventure, highly recommend you go check out some of my more interesting videos. One where definitely was my fault, the tire I decided to go on me and I had to replace it in Kamloops, as well as some of the trips as we go through Arrowhead Lake and take 3 days to go between the two cities and explore some beautiful camping spots. So as I mentioned, don't forget to go ahead and check out the channel memberships to support the channel and get some exclusive perks. While you're down there, drop a comment, let me know if you've ever done the Calgary to Vancouver, Vancouver Calgary road, and check out Flat 4 Off-Road. But until next time, I'll see you in the next adventure.